Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite entries in the Star Wars saga, so it may seem redundant to pitch improvements to it when other movies are sitting right there, but Episode 3 is not without its shortcomings, and with a few punch-ups, it could have been the best picture of the year, not just of the prequels. And maybe that's hyperbole and some hubris on my part, but I do enjoy seeing what could have made good movies reach their full potential. Every story can be told better, and my improved draft could look different from your improved draft, but hopefully ours line up a little bit. Originally, this video was going to be about how Episode 3 could have been split up into 2 movies, since that was a common critique at the time, that it should have been 2. But I don't think that's necessary now. I think all it needs is some tweaks and extensions. Ironically, I think it's my video itself that'll be split up because I got halfway through the movie and this script was already shaping up to be longer than anything I've done so far. So, here's part 1 of Revenge of the Sith, Martin Draft. It basically opens just how the current cut does, with the battle over Coruscant. It's a fantastic sequence. The main addition occurs somewhere on the Invisible Hand while Anakin and Obi-Wan are making their way to the Chancellor, maybe while waiting for R2 to work his magic. Anakin says he senses the Chancellor, and Obi-Wan replies, "Strange, I do not," and that he senses something else. Anakin asks what, and Obi-Wan explains that he senses the echo of his old master Qui-Gon Jinn, meaning Count Dooku is close. Anakin asks whether that makes it difficult for Obi-Wan to face him, to which Obi-Wan says it does, immeasurably in fact, but he will still do what he must, no matter how hard it is. Besides, Kenobi says with a glint in his eye and a wry smile, Anakin carries on Qui-Gon's spirit better than Dooku or Obi-Wan himself, and because of that, Qui-Gon will live on. They make it to the Chancellor, who says Dooku must be brought to justice for what he's done here. Obi-Wan reminds Palpatine that his safe return is their mission, but that Dooku will be made to answer for his crimes in the Supreme Court before long. Palpatine pushes back. No, the Separatist leader must die here and now. Anakin agrees with him, saying Newt Gunray avoided answering for his own crimes. They must execute justice themselves. Obi-Wan reminds Anakin that they must follow the will of the Force. How do you know killing Dooku is not the Force's will? Anakin asks. The Separatist leader is too dangerous to be kept alive. To which Obi-Wan simply responds that if they get a clear chance to bring him in alive, then the Force wants it to be. Palpatine, bemused, chimes in that you'd think the Force would want whatever brought peace the fastest. And then Dooku comes in and they fight. And in this version it plays out like the scrapped version of the duel that's even way more awesome than what we have now. In part because it shows Anakin steadily gaining the upper hand on Dooku like a steady, unstoppable force, as well as his ability to uncannily copy his opponent's tactics to use against them. Anakin disarms Dooku, and as much as we all love "do it," I don't think we need it. In fact, I'd edit the exchange to be a lot more silent. Dooku's totally at Anakin's mercy, fully expecting to be brought in alive. He says something to the effect of, "The Council can put me away, strip me of the Force, but I'll never cooperate." Anakin's face slowly turns from Dooku to Palpatine. Without a word, Palpatine tells Anakin what he should do. Dooku, sensing something off, shifts his eyes to his Sith master, catching his smug, satisfied look. The horrified resignation in Dooku's eyes speaks the terrible truth. He's being replaced. Heads, you did well, Anakin. To which Anakin replies he doesn't want to talk about it. He's shaken. The rescue plays out. When the Chancellor and company return planetside, we see scars from the battle that just took place. Smoke billowing from buildings, emergency services scrambling, all that stuff. In talking to Anakin, Bail Organa mentions he's been getting questions from his constituents, who are typically strong supporters of the Jedi and the war effort, but they're concerned with the increasing number of former Confederate systems that are under the Order's control. Anakin replies with what has become the typical response from a council. It is a temporary transitional measure, and that planets rescued from Separatist control will be able to govern themselves once free and fair elections can be guaranteed. Capturing Grievous and ending the war will ensure that. Until then, it's the Jedi's duty to maintain peace and order. And stuff happens. Then we catch up with Anakin and Padme at their apartment. He tells her he loves being home and because he feels calm and safe around her. She reciprocates by telling him that she, in turn, feels like she can take on the whole galaxy herself when she's with him. Their love has literally created a bond in the Force so deep that they share temperaments, attitudes, feelings, and even thoughts when they're around each other. They've truly become one. It's a beautiful thing, but the drawback is they've also felt each other's sense of stress and anxiety over the course of the war, even at great distances. Is this something that other Jedi can sense about them? Who knows? Regardless, things will be different once the war ends and they will finally be left alone to raise their family. Anakin has his terrible vision of Padme dying during childbirth. He wakes up, tormented by the thought. Padme tries to comfort him, telling Anakin she doesn't want him to get obsessed over this. It was only a dream. He promises to try, but Padme can tell he's lying. He's convinced it's real. Anakin goes to see Yoda. Yoda is concerned about Anakin's premonitions. Has he had them before? Yoda asks. Anakin is cagey, but Yoda sees right through him and warns him to be careful, saying visions of this nature are not unheard of, but they are rare. Historically, they've appeared to come from the Force as a warning of some kind. So that we can save this person? Anakin asks. Not at all, Yoda says. The subject of such a vision could simply lay at the nexus of fate for someone. It could mean anything. But why would the Force direct my attention to someone if not to save them from death? Yoda responds that because the Force exists in all living things, and death is a natural part of life, holding on to life often does not serve balance. The Force could be telling you to let go, or at least be able to should it come to that. Anakin refuses to accept that. Yoda warns him that straying from the path of the light could be what triggers visions of this nature in the first place, and to watch himself. Anyway, Anakin's late for the meeting, Palpatine wants to see him, Obi-Wan feels uneasy. Palpatine appoints Anakin to the Jedi Council. That's a huge honor, but can he really do that? Anakin asks. Yes, in fact. The Senate has given Palpatine direct control over the Jedi Order, even going so far as to give him authority over the council itself. Palpatine tells Anakin that yes, he deserves this new position, but the Chancellor also needs eyes and ears on the council. Palpatine shares a growing concern among the people that the Jedi are using the war for their own gain, using the chaos of the fighting to seize power around the galaxy, building new temples, and stationing permanent Jedi garrisons. If not for Anakin, Dooku would still be at large, and Palpatine wonders how long the council will let General Grievous roam free. The Chancellor has seen many Jedi come and go over his time in politics, and he fears the war has awakened something twisted on the Jedi Council, a hunger for control. Rather than serving the greater good, they believe they are the greater good. He tells Anakin to take note of how the Council treats him going forward. They can't question his qualifications. If they distrust him, it's because of his friendship with the Chancellor, and they don't want whatever plans they may be crafting to reach his ears. And then we insert the deleted scene showing Padme, Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and other senators remarking on the state of the Constitution, forming the beginning of an alliance within the Senate to put a check on the Chancellor's power. It ends with Mon Mothma swearing everyone to absolute secrecy about it, not even telling loved ones. Padme questions the wisdom of their plan. Anakin appears before the council. They don't like this, and they don't grant him the rank of master. Wait, what? How can you do this? If you're not a master, you don't get a vote, you can't introduce topics of discussion, you can't even speak before being spoken to. How can you be on the council and not be a master? Master Windu, along with most of the council, has had enough of this, and withholding the rank of master from Skywalker, humiliating him at the highest level, is the only way they can push back against the Chancellor. They get on with their business. Ki-Adi-Mundi reports that they've narrowed down Grievous's most probable location to one of two worlds, Kashyyyk and Utapau. Kashyyyk is currently occupied by a large separatist force capable of sending reinforcements to Utapau should Grievous be there. They will hit that one first, and Yoda volunteers. Utapau, though, is officially neutral, so running in with the fleet would be really risky without proper cause, knowing for sure that Grievous is there. Should he not be on Kashyyyk, Kenobi will go in ahead of his forces and make confirmation of his presence for clones to come in. And so on. Obi-Wan gives Anakin his assignment, but Anakin does not like it. Palpatine has managed to stay in office long after his term has expired. The Senate demanded he stay. And then Obi-Wan reminds Anakin that the Order has a duty to protect democracy and something is out of place. Chancellor Palpatine may seem like a good man and a friend, but many of the Republic's fundamental institutions are backsliding in a way that the war's end won't automatically fix. Palpatine promised to lay down his powers once peace was achieved, but there's nothing left holding him to that. Additionally, the Chancellor's office bizarrely seems to be stoking aggression against the Jedi. The Council has repeatedly asked for funds and resources in order to return captured systems back over to their own citizens, but they've been stonewalled every time. In fact, excess manpower and funds, according to one rumor, seem to be pouring into a project or fleet around Endor, which is nowhere near the front lines, and the Council can't get anywhere near there. Anakin needs to find out what is going on in the Chancellor's office because the Council is being kept in the dark while they fight Palpatine's war. Still, Anakin says spying on the Republic's head of state is treason, and Obi-Wan replies that they are at war, but they need to know with whom. If Dooku's Sith Master has sunk their claws into the heart of the Republic, they need to know. They look out the window and see a small group of protesters organizing outside the temple. Yoda, Kenobi, and Windu take a ride. Windu doesn't trust Anakin. Is Anakin not the chosen one? Obi-Wan asks. Yoda remarks that destiny does not equal infallibility. Even if the Force did choose Anakin to bring balance, it can't make him do anything. The implication is clear. The thought that the Force's millennia-old prophecy could be thwarted hangs around their necks. Obi-Wan breaks the silence. Anakin won't let him down. He never has. Nevertheless, Yoda says, this is the most precarious moment of the entire war. Obi-Wan looks over at a civilian transport and notices more than a few faces staring at them aggressively. The populace is turning against them. The war needs to end, and soon. Padme feels uneasy. She turns off a HoloNet report showing Palpatine putting blame for the war on the Jedi. She doesn't recognize the Senate anymore. It was never perfect, but these days it's less about debate and more about supporting Palpatine's whims and putting an end to dissent. They get protesters outside the Senate building when they so much as deliberate the wisdom in expanding the Chancellor's powers. The people want the war over, and they want it now, whatever the cost. Some senators have accepted extra security, but there's rumors that the officers assigned to them also report their movements to the Chancellor's inner circle, which is why she herself hasn't accepted any. She fears Palpatine may have lost control over those around him who are taking advantage of the conflict. She then asks Anakin to use his friendship with Palpatine to restart diplomatic talks, and he flips out. Both of his mentors are trying to use him, and now his wife. He feels like a slave again. She feels this because of their connection and talks him down. Anakin doesn't have to do anything he thinks is wrong, she says. The Republic doesn't own him, the Jedi don't own him. He's not a pawn, not a tool. He's a person, and his name is Anakin. She tells him he should go to Palpatine and Obi-Wan and tell them they need to find another way. This is tearing him apart. If her and Anakin's time together is to be cut short, if his visions are correct, they should spend their remaining time together in happiness. Padme's inner peace reaches Anakin's heart, and they make plans to travel to Naboo soon. Anakin goes first to Palpatine at the Opera House. The purpose of his visit is the only difference in this scene. I mean, come on, it's great. Anakin tells Palpatine that he can't help him. Palpatine is disappointed, but understanding. Anakin should do what's best for him, and he hopes the Council will be understanding as well should he step away from them. Hopefully, their quest for greater power won't cloud their judgment, and that's how he pivots to the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. And that catches Anakin's attention. What if there were a measure of truth to this Sith legend? Yoda's on Kashyyyk, they make contact with separatist forces, but clone scouts don't find any sign of the general. So, it's time for Obi-Wan to head out, while Yoda keeps the enemy from leaving the Wookiee homeworld to reinforce the general. The two Jedi look out at Commander Cody's forces loading onto their capital ship. It's a surreal moment. They reminisce about how things were before the war. They didn't know it, but life was so much simpler back then. Even though it's not his fault, Obi-Wan apologizes to Anakin for not being able to live how a young Jedi should. Jedi Knights were never meant to be soldiers. What would Qui-Gon have thought about all this? Anakin wonders. Obi-Wan doesn't have an answer. He can't picture his old master as a general, but Qui-Gon would never have shirked his duty either. He probably would have found another way, an alternative to fighting. It's a shame they'll never know. Anakin then points out that Obi-Wan never really got to be a young Jedi Knight either, having to immediately go from being a Padawan to having one. Anakin can't imagine having someone like him as an apprentice right now. He's brash, impatient, and can be frustrating, and he's sorry for that. Remember, we're pretending it's 2005 and Ahsoka Tano doesn't exist yet, but Obi-Wan quickly and graciously reassures his former Padawan. Anakin is strong and wise, and he is very proud of him. He didn't just train him since he was a small boy, he raised him too. And he knows Skywalker will become a greater Jedi than he could ever hope to be. He hates the position the Council has had to put Anakin in, and he knows it's hard. But after the war, things can go back to the way they used to be. They just need to trust in the Force. Obi-Wan begins to leave when Anakin stops him with a question that's clearly been bothering him. Did Obi-Wan feel conflicted or guilty after killing that Sith Lord on Naboo so many years ago? Did the act stay with him? Obi-Wan ponders this for a second. Killing a living being in close combat, making that decision, is never easy. I knew I did the right thing, Obi-Wan answers. Not because it was either him or me, but because the Force was on my side. How does he know that? Anakin asks. Because, Obi-Wan answers, the only way he defeated that Sith Lord was either luck or the Force itself, and he doesn't believe in luck. When you follow the Force, Obi-Wan says, you never have to wonder if you're doing the right thing. That doesn't mean it's never hard, quite the opposite. But taking up the mantle of Jedi Knight or Master means vowing to always make the difficult decision for the greater good. And that is something that can weigh on you sometimes. He promises to talk with Anakin about it more, help him to sort through his thoughts when he gets back. Anakin tries to tell Obi-Wan that he can't be the Council's spy, but he fails to work up the nerve. They part ways. Goodbye, old friend. Back at the Skywalker residence, Padme is getting ready for the move to Naboo, but senses something is very wrong when Anakin walks in, just as he senses the same within her. He asks her what is wrong. He knows she's conflicted about something, he can feel it. She does not tell him about her meeting with the other senators, and how her sense of duty is tugging at her to stay and fight. She tells him she's nervous about the move is all. But Anakin knows she's lying, just as Padme feels his inner sense of desperation and uncertainty. Something is pulling him to stay too. She asks him about his state of mind, but he blocks her too. Hope in a Sith legend? It's preposterous, but he can't stop thinking about it. He does ask her if there was a way to change her fate, keep his visions from coming true. Would she take it? Padme does not answer, because questions like that have made countless men go mad. Anakin does not accept that. Padme is the most strong-willed person he's ever met. How could she be content with this? I'm not, she says. She says the Separatists, the Jedi, the Chancellor, the Force, they've all conspired to rob them of their happiness, their family, and she hates all of them for it. But, she adds, she accepts reality. Trying to change it would rob her of whatever joy she has left. I know you don't fully believe that, Anakin spits, and I know part of you does, Padme replies. This could make it an open question as to which of them Padme's sentiment came from. Their bond is so strong, they themselves may not be able to tell. While Obi-Wan lands on Utapau, let's recap a little. Right now, each of our characters has a personal stake in the capture or killing of General Grievous. The end of the war means better things to come for them and for the galaxy at large. In any other film, this would be the climax. Anyway, Obi-Wan confirms the general is planetside and signals for Commander Cody to bring in the big guns. When it looks like his bounty is ready to board his ship and leave, Kenobi jumps in to buy some time. The fight goes how it goes. Ideally, Grievous would be more menacing like his performance in Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars series. Cut to the war room at the temple. Commander Cody informs Master Windu and Master Skywalker that Kenobi has found their target, and that his forces are making their way to Utapau now. Mace tells Anakin to deliver the news to Palpatine, as well as gauge his reaction to it and get a sense of his feelings toward laying down his powers. Mace senses a great disturbance in the Force, not a plot specifically to destroy the Jedi, but an immense feeling of dread and doom. The dark side surrounds the Chancellor. The sooner he lays down his emergency powers, the better Mace will feel. If Palpatine doesn't, then he should be removed from office, as the Supreme Court dictated generations before. Of course, the Chancellor suspended a lot of laws based on precedents that check his authority, so it's up in the air as to whether the court's authority still applies at all. And the Senate does not have the power to impeach anymore even. Were the Jedi to remove Palpatine from office, which is a provision nowhere to be found in the Constitution, they'd have to take control of the Senate during the transition, a move that would be deeply unpopular, even dangerous in the face of growing distrust of the Order. A question is posed. Could the clone army be counted on to support the Jedi in that case? Their Kaminoan creators had said they were loyal to the Republic, but did that mean the Senate or only the Chancellor? Ki-Adi-Mundi chimes in, saying, "The clones have fought and bled alongside their Jedi comrades for years now. They would not be so quick to abandon them. The clones, he thinks, could be counted on to maintain stability during such a time. For now, each Jedi with a command of their own will let their clone commander know of the potential situation to come and to stand by. A quick montage plays out, showing as much, with each clone commander standing resolute and ready to serve. Yoda himself sends a message to Commander Cody in the field, who is shown to be fully on board. Anakin gives the news to Palpatine. Grievous's capture or killing is imminent, and Palpatine is unfazed. Hopeful even. Anakin asks if Palpatine has given thought to when exactly he'll return power to the Senate. The Chancellor all but shrugs and says, whenever the Senate asks for it, they're the ones who own that authority, he says, able to give it away and take it back. Personally, Palpatine says he can't wait for it to happen. Anakin goes to leave and report that back to Mace Windu, but Palpatine drops one last question at the last second. Do you know what I most look forward to after leaving office? Anakin hesitates and then turns back into the room. Retiring to Naboo. It's a serene gem of the Republic, possibly the last one. He can't wait to live out his days as a cranky old man in peace. Anakin agrees, and Palpatine wistfully floats the idea that perhaps Anakin can come visit him from time to time. He can bring others if he wishes, Master Kenobi or Senator Amidala. That one hangs in the air for a moment. Anakin agrees. It could be good to catch up with friends in such a beautiful place after all this is done. Palpatine smiles and adds that he hopes Anakin and Padme can actually get a good honeymoon this time. Anakin freezes. His secret is out. Everything is ruined. He tries to stammer out a response, but Palpatine cuts him off with a wave of his hand and a reassuring look. Anakin's secret is safe with him, and he'll make sure it stays that way. He's known for a long time, in fact. He cares little for many aspects of the Jedi Code, including its mantra on attachments. Palpatine tells Anakin he's happy for him, and that he's sorry he couldn't congratulate him sooner, or even been at the wedding. This lifts a massive weight off Anakin's shoulders. This wave of relief washes away the thick layer of anxiety and dread he's been carrying for 3 years. Palpatine has gone from friend to confidant. Anakin breaks down and proceeds to tell Palpatine everything he's been struggling with recently regarding his visions of Padme. It becomes a mirror image of his scene with Yoda at the temple, only this time Anakin is far more open and gets vastly different advice. Palpatine reassures Anakin that he will not let anything happen to Padme, and that they will work together to make sure his visions never come to pass. But how? Anakin asks. The key, Palpatine answers, is in the legend of Darth Plagueis. Anakin tenses up at this. The dark side? Impossible. He could never do that. Besides, there isn't anyone to teach him. He killed Count Dooku. And then Palpatine reveals his true nature. No, there is another. Palpatine can teach Anakin everything. All that he knows, if he'll just let him. You're the Sith Lord. Anakin comes back to himself, the stalwart Jedi Knight once more. You don't even know what that means, Palpatine exclaims. The Jedi have painted the Sith as the ultimate evil because they're the only threat to their power. And he says it's only a matter of time before they turn on Anakin too, because he can think for himself. He knows what it's like to have a mother, to have a wife, and in time, to be a father, as they never will. The Jedi call it the dark side, but do you know what we call it? We just call it the Force. The Sith simply seek to understand all aspects of it, including the parts that let people think and live for themselves, outside of what Providence dictates. For instance, the Force wanted Dooku alive, but how did Anakin feel when he killed him? Anakin bristles at the question. It was wrong, he answers. You didn't answer the question. I had to do it. No, you didn't. Why did you? But it wasn't the Jedi way. No, it wasn't. It was your way. And how did that make you feel? Shame, guilt. No, it didn't. That's what the Jedi want you to feel. How did you feel? I don't know. Yes, you do. Think for yourself. Search your feelings. How did you feel as you cut him down? I felt good. Time stops. A wall has been knocked down. Hearing the Force's demand to spare him and ignoring it made Anakin feel alive, just like choosing to be with Padme made him feel alive. It was the only time he didn't feel like a slave. Palpatine leans forward. Notably, Anakin does not keep him at bay, instead moving his lightsaber blade with Palpatine's movement so as to keep the blade close to his throat but not in danger of harming him. Use my knowledge, I beg you, for your sake. It is the only way you'll be free. We are luminous beings who deserve to look up at our overlords and say no. I promise you, Anakin, you deserve to be up there with them. The Jedi Council will never make you a master, but I would make you a lord of the ancient tradition. The Jedi Council would let your wife and unborn child die, but I would make it so you'd never have to say goodbye again. I can teach you, Anakin. Anakin thinks for a long moment, unsure of what it'll do. Finally, he switches off his lightsaber and says he's going to turn Palpatine over to the Council. Surprisingly, Palpatine does not react in anger or desperation. No fighting, no pleading. He simply looks sad, resigned, brokenhearted, not for himself, but for Anakin. I hope this brings you peace. Cut to Obi-Wan. The fight continues and ends like it does, only Obi-Wan's reaction to Grievous's death is less flippant. He looks down at the general's immolated body, which, come to think of it, has got to be foreshadowing, in disbelief. It's over. A peace treaty may only be days away now. He sheds hard-won tears of joy. They can finally start putting the galaxy back together. Beaming, he contacts Master Windu. Anakin catches Mace Windu on his way out to make sure the Chancellor gives up his powers, and he tells Master Windu that Palpatine is the Sith Lord they've been looking for. The exchange basically goes down like it does in the movie, with a couple little additions. The clone commanders are said to be on standby in case the Chancellor refuses to step down, and as Mace boards the gunship, Anakin asks what he will do with the Chancellor, this Sith Lord. Mace cryptically answers, whatever is necessary. Anakin goes to wait in the council chambers. Rather than hearing Palpatine re-explaining the stakes in his head, here we just see Anakin's emotional state as we cut between him and Padme, who herself is in a meeting with the other senators, but she's a million miles away. She feels his broken heart right along with him. Anakin begins to sense her heartbeat, and we hear it, which brings even more tears. He's being torn apart. He can barely stand the pain. Padme's heartbeat fades away, and then he hears something else. The light, rapid heartbeat of his unborn child. His face transforms into one of absolute resolve and he takes off running. As he does so, Padme turns to the window looking towards the Jedi Temple, her face overcome with apprehension and concern. Windu and the other 3 Jedi Masters enter the Chancellor's office. Palpatine's demeanor is stone cold, dripping with disgust right off the bat. He tells the Jedi that they are intruding. Windu does not even acknowledge it. They ignite their lightsabers to place him under arrest. Coldly, Palpatine says, "Do not threaten me, Jedi. The Senate will decide your fate. As I have decided yours." All 4 Jedi drop into battle stances. Palpatine stands up, regarding them like a bird of prey. And for the first time, his expression changes. He's going to enjoy this. He breaks the calm before the storm with 2 words. At last. The fight plays out like the deleted version, more visceral and intense. By the end of it, Mace has Palpatine seemingly dead to rights as Anakin walks in. "I told you they'd destroy me. The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost." "We've all lost," Palpatine says. "The Jedi are getting exactly what they want. Power. They will take away the people's freedoms and make them subservient. But, Palpatine declares, he will not let them as he unleashes his lightning at Windu. Who's the traitor? Palpatine runs out of juice and Windu declares he's going to end this. Anakin objects. It's not the Jedi way. He's too dangerous to be kept alive. Anakin pleads with Master Windu. They should interrogate him, find out what he knows. There could be more like him out there. They could lock him away in solitary confinement, far away from anyone. Anakin could take responsibility for him. Windu refuses and winds up his fatal blow. Anakin blurts out, "I need him." "Why?" Windu asks, and presses the issue. Palpatine tells Anakin to come clean. Fall on the good Jedi's mercy. Anakin confesses that Palpatine holds the key to saving his wife and child. Mace is shocked at this development. He doesn't know what to say. His face goes from astonishment to confusion to anger. How could this have happened? And then it dawns on him just how much danger he's in. There is a powerful Sith Lord in front of him, far from helpless, and his only ally in the room is severely compromised, desperate, and likely to turn on him at any moment. In fact, his hand is suspiciously close to his lightsaber. Anakin says, "Master," but doesn't know what to say next, but he can feel the tension rising uncontrollably. "Step back, Skywalker," Windu says. "I can't do that. I don't care. Please don't do this. You know me, Master." "No, I don't." Windu springs into action. He force pulls Anakin's weapon toward him, but Anakin catches it, narrowly dodges Windu's blade as he tries to cut him down, and cuts off Windu's hand as the same swing goes to connect with Palpatine's neck, saving the man. It all happens in the blink of an eye. Palpatine lightnings Mace Windu into oblivion, only without the screaming about unlimited power. What just happened? Mace Windu just tried to kill him. Anakin was just acting on instinct. He didn't mean to do that, right? Why did he do that? Anakin screams. You know why, Anakin. And you know exactly what the rest will do too. Anakin can't deny it. He can no longer go back to the Jedi. Not after this. I can protect you, Palpatine adds. More importantly, I can help you protect yourself. Become my apprentice. Learn to use the dark side of the Force. It is what you were made for. How can I learn to have power over death? Despite all that's happened, he's still unsure. I promise, you will. Anakin considers this. This is the most pivotal moment of his life. Finally, he takes a knee and accepts, swearing loyalty to Palpatine and the dark side. Palpatine can barely contain his malicious excitement, beholding the young Skywalker like a tiger whose next meal just walked into its lair. Without warning, he lashes out and grabs Anakin's head in a death grip. Anakin violently enters a state of unconsciousness and is flooded by dark, twisted visions. He falls to the ground, dead to the world. Back home, Padme falls to the ground, overtaken by extreme pain and distress. The senators rush to her aid. Anakin's visions of ancient Sith turn into images of people close to him he's lost or will lose. Qui-Gon Jinn, Shmi Skywalker, Padme Amidala. He sees them dying, but then images of them alive now and for years to come, happy and healthy. Anakin gasps back to life, trembling at what he's just seen. What was that? Palpatine answers, the dark side. Anakin speaks of thoughts being pressed into his mind as well, a language he'd never heard before, yet somehow understood. The ancient Sith language, Palpatine explains. That is a good sign. The dark side of the Force imprints an identity on each new Dark Lord who finds themselves worthy. Maul, Tyrannus, Sidious, and soon to be one more. The searing pain lets go of Padme, and she can finally stand up. Mon Mothma brings her a glass of water as she's led to the sofa to sit down. Her head still aches, a lingering side effect of what just happened, but she's otherwise okay. And what did the dark side say to you, Anakin? Who are you? Through the tears and fog, for a reason unknown to herself, Padme whispers a single word under her breath, barely audible even to herself. Father? Sidious grins. Rise, Lord Vader. As a side note, I do know this could spark all kinds of jokes, that the Sith language is Dutch, but we've all known Vader is Dutch for father for years at this point, and that hasn't ruined the story for anyone yet, so who cares? Moving on, once the Jedi learn of what has just transpired, they will seek to kill Sidious and Vader, so they must strike first, catch them off balance. For his second lesson, Vader must cast off his former loyalties by going to the Jedi Temple and cleansing it of all the traitors within, every single one. Doing so will purge him of his hesitation and mercy, traits that are the undoing of any Sith Lord. Vader coldly accepts the assignment. Finally, the galaxy will have peace. Vader enters the temple with the 501st in tow. The crowd of protesters outside the temple, which has swelled over the last few days, makes way for Vader and the clones. The people are confused at first, but they slowly start applauding and cheering as they realize something is about to happen, even if they don't know what exactly. Meanwhile, Sidious sends out his message to Commander Cody, executing Order 66. Clearly, the Chancellor has not stepped down. Cody stands still for half a beat. We can't read his face, so we're not sure what he's about to do. The forces of good can still turn the tide if he just stands for what's right. Cody gives the order to take Kenobi out. Order 66 plays out like it does. Clone commanders take out their Jedi generals in the field, mercilessly stabbing their comrades in arms in the back. Also, clone battalions overrun and destroy all the Jedi garrisons and temples that dot worlds taken from the Separatists. Across the galaxy, Jedi die. They thought they were on the cusp of victory, but one by one they learned the hard way that the game was rigged from the start. And that's where we'll leave it for now. Obviously, this is not a perfect bulletproof draft, no piece of writing is. It's all whether or not it happens to be your cup of tea, which I hope it kind of is. I thought about asking how you'd punch up my draft as I did here, but I'm going to hold off until it's all finished, since it's hard to adequately critique something until you have the whole picture. There is stuff in here that won't pay off until later. So for now, I'll leave you with this. Is there another movie you'd like to see punched up on this channel? As usual, grab a like on your way out and subscribe if you still need to. Consider joining the channel if you can. It would support me a ton. Also, take a gander at the merch store. For now, stay tough and stop by again sometime.